Who better than me?
Welcome back to yet another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. This wasn't one I was particularly thinking of doing until later on in the week. But yeah, there was a lot to talk about. Had to wait though till that Spider-Man trailer dropped. It was worth the wait. But yeah, now I'm doing this in the early hours. So yeah. Anyway, I guess the main things to kind of talk about is the WBC convention, which has now yielded a bunch of interesting takes, let's put it that way. First things first, I suppose, the first thing I should talk about, I guess there's only one place to start in it. Dillian Whyte has not been made the mandatory as of yet for the WBC title due to an arbitration that's going on between him and the WBC. So they're saying they can't name the mandatory until the arbitration is over with. But they've been in arbitration with man for a good couple of months now. So why did they not state after the Otto Wallin fight got cancelled that the arbitration had to finish before any mandate could be made? It's not making much sense. But that's code for WBC anyway. Like I listened to it and I watched all the videos and I'm thinking to myself, hold on. But you put out a statement, what was it, 2 weeks ago, where they said they received they received the medical documents or whatever from the BBBOC, something like that, saying something along the lines, oh, Dillian, they've seen the medical report, they're satisfied, therefore, as stated, the interim champion will be made mandatory after the 30 days. So why didn't you bring up this thing about the arbitration then? Like, it's all just a bit mad, to be honest. And the joke is, they're saying the arbitration is preventing the mandatory from being called, so that has to be resolved first. But the arbitration was put into place because you did not call a mandatory before, and you haven't done so in, 2-3 years? In terms of, the correct mandatory, because let's not forget, he was due to be made the mandatory back in 2019. And then the UCAD issue happened, and they suspended his mandatory pending investigation. But before the investigation was over, they just randomly installed Tyson Fury as a mandatory. Even after he turned down 2 separate mandates from the WBC. The first one was to do the immediate rematch with Deontay Wilder after the first fight. He refused that. Went on his own journey with Top Rank and fought Tom Schwartz and then Otto Wallin. And then just before he fought Otto Wallin, he was mandated to face Dillian Whyte for the diamond belt, which he actually requested for, then turned that down, fought Otto Wallin, and then still got made mandatory when Dillian Whyte should have been the mandatory off of some bullshit UCAD thing, which then got cleared up where he was 100% innocent. So you're talking about a whole 2-year saga at that point. They installed Tyson Fury as the mandatory just so that year's mandatory could quote unquote be satisfied, and Dillian would have to wait till the following year. Then we all know what happened with Povetkin. Look, these things happen, innit? But even prior to that, when Dominic Breazeale was installed as the mandatory, even though the WBC said that his fight with Eric Molina wouldn't be for a mandatory position. It would be an eliminator. It would not be a final eliminator. Then they changed it last minute, even though Dominic Brazil was like number 6. I think it was number 6 in their rankings at the time. And Dillian was number 1. At this point, it's almost tiresome to talk about, because obviously you guys are hearing me talk about it maybe, the first or second time on this channel, but I've been talking about it for the last 3 years. I've been on live streams with Ring IQ, with Boxing Beats and Rhymes, with Mark at Unrivaled Boxing. I've spoke about this on the Undefeated podcast. Like, for the last couple of years, this is the same conversation, and it's happening over and over again. So I can't see how he's gonna get his shot. I really can't. But yeah, going back to what I was initially saying, it's like, he took them to arbitration because they wouldn't make the mandatory. But now they're saying, well, we can't make the mandatory until the arbitration's finished. But the arbitration would finish if you just made the mandatory, because that's what you're being sued for, or that's what it's about, unless there's something else in there that we don't know in terms of the wording, or whatever's being whatever's being communicated. There must be something else in that that's got to be more than just make me mandatory and give me and ensure that I get my shot. There has to be, because if not, I'm sure that at this point you just withdraw whatever you're doing and say, okay, look, make me mandatory right now and I'll call it all off. But it also seems like maybe they're using that as a trump card, like, well, we still got what you want, so whatever this is that you're trying to get from us right now, these documents and these articles that you want, drop it all and then we let you have the mandatory. It's almost like a bit of a bribe. But I don't know. It's another sad day for Dillian, or another frustrating one. Who knows what's going to happen next? But yeah, we're gonna tune in and boy, let's keep on this ride, innit? I suppose there's nothing else you can really do. Also, actually, I was looking at the rankings and it was going through all the divisions. Now I can't remember the majority of them off the top of my head, but the one that I do remember, and the one I took the most interest in, because obviously it's been quite a big topic for a lot of us in the UK boxing community, is the light heavyweight division right now. Now, I need to find out, how did Anthony Yarde get a number 5 ranking in the WBC? Like, I legit need to understand how this happened. Because, let's see, man fought Dex Bellman after losing to Kovalev. Wait, no, he fought the 154-pound guy that came up to 175 in Spain. So after Kovalev, fought that guy, then fought Dex Bellman, then lost to Lyndon Arthur. Did he have... I remember he was supposed to have a fight on the Arthur card where Arthur was facing Fracci or whatever his name is. Then, yeah, he had his warm-up fight against the same brother, or one of those others that pulled out. So now he's had that fight. He's going into the Arthur fight, but he's number 5 in the rankings after fighting absolutely nobody. Because none of those people that he beat were in the WBC rankings anywhere. So how do you become number 5 off of that all of a sudden? That, to me, doesn't make any sense. Joshua Buatsi being number 4 doesn't make much sense to me. Okay, you had Ricard Bolotnik's last round, but he wasn't in the WBC rankings either. And I swear is he not number 2 or number 3 in the WBA as well at the minute? Obviously now he's pulled out of the Vlasov fight, which is, I guess, a topic I'll just amalgamate into this as well. I'm pretty sure that pullout is more than just about a hand injury. because the winner of Zurdo Ramirez's next fight, I think he's fighting a guy called Garcia. No, it's not a Garcia. I've forgotten his name. But yeah, he's fighting him. And then that winner gets made the mandatory for Dimitri Bivol. So Speculation City, it must be thinking, well, why are we going to put Buatsi in such a hard fight with a man like Vlasov, who should basically be world champion right now? Let's be real. Because he did beat Joe Smith Jr. in that fight that they had. So why are we going to put him in such a tough fight like that if we don't get an immediate shot afterwards? That's what it seems like. And with all of the Matchroom stars kind of getting their arse handed to them recently, maybe now Eddie and the team might just be a little cautious, like, nah, you know, because there's no point having options on Vlasov, to be honest, because like he's an old man, he's 35, and he's not a Kiko Martinez 35. There's not much of a marquee value there. So if he was to beat Buatsi, okay, apart from maybe having a rematch, if he was to beat him again, like, you can't really do much with him, because you're not going to put your eggs behind him to go get the titles and to bring them back over. So yeah, I don't think that fight's going to get rescheduled. And if it doesn't get rescheduled, I got to call that a duck. I got to call that they didn't really want it. They weren't about that life. But I'm going to hold ultimate judgment on that until we see what happens. But yeah, so Yarde's number 5, but Buatsi's number 4. I didn't see Lyndon Arthur's name in the top 15. But I did see Craig Richards. But I see Craig Richards at number 15. Like, basically they got man squatting the whole rest of the list. Like, how is man propping up the list? And I'm looking at certain names above him, and I'm like, hold on, how did this person get a ranking ahead of him? I mean, he did much better with Bivol than Yarde did with Kovalev. He clearly did better with Bivol than someone like Johnson did with Beterbiev. So you got Marcus Brown, who they made the mandatory, who, as far as I can remember, ain't fought since 2019. I'm almost certain he ain't fought in like 2. So how do you become a mandatory after 2 years of not fighting anybody? The whole list just didn't really make much sense to me for that light heavyweights. But you know what? Again, that's the WBC. Like, certain divisions, their lists are normally like the best ones in terms of recognizable names, even if you don't like the actual order they're in. But yeah, that order don't make no sense to me at all. None. But moving away from that, because I didn't check the whole WBC convention, but the piece of news I did hear, which I'm sure everyone else has heard right about now, is that Eddie Reynoso petitioned to the WBC to allow Canelo Alvarez to go up to Cruiserweight to fight Ilunga Makabu for the WBC Cruiserweight title, happening likely next year, May. Now, that's actually, I remember I was speaking with, who was I talking to? I remember when Ade put that out as an idea a while, like a couple of weeks back, and I'm guessing someone must have watched his videos, because they never made any sort of mention that they was thinking about that. But yeah, like, he's definitely the easiest opponent out of all of the champions. And even when I say that, I'm not meaning easy like it's a cherry pick, because it's really not. It's still an incredibly dangerous fight. But because he's one of the smaller cruiserweights, sometimes coming in as low as like 190 in the past, he doesn't really bust at the seams at the cruiserweight limit. So I could realistically see this match, if he gets it, being, you know, sort of something in the contract, being a catch weight maybe like a 190 limit, maybe with like 195 limit, something like that. Make sure he sticks to that. I mean, Canelo probably walks around these days at like sort of 180, 185. So realistically, all you're doing is just making sure that you don't have to drop weight. Like, you're still going to be, you'll be performing at your walking around weight. And he's economic these days anyway, so it's not like he's going to be, you know, losing bare stamina and sort of blowing a gasket or whatever. Like, he should, I can definitely see him winning this fight. It's definitely a winnable fight for him, hence why he's taking it, or why he wants to challenge himself and become a 5-weight champion. But it's also not a foregone conclusion. It will probably be the most dangerous fight out of all the possible ones that he could have right now in 168, the 160 guys coming up, and the 175, just because of the size. It's probably just as dangerous as having the Beterbiev fight right about now, because Makabu, what is he, mid-30s, like, what is he, about 33, 34? Well, you know, on paper, he could all be in his 40s. I don't know. But dimensions wise, I think he's only about 5'10", 5'11". So he's got very similar dimensions like Artur Beterbiev. So I can actually see him going up to cruiserweight, looking to take that fight, then coming back down to light heavyweight in September to take on Beterbiev if Beterbiev looks bad or looks a bit slow in his next fight, because obviously he's gonna want some time. You know, you gotta keep letting him get a bit older, because by the time that will take place, Beterbiev will be like 38. He's already like such a big guy for 175. He's probably starting to struggle now to make that weight. I wouldn't imagine he's not. So you take him then, and then if you want that December fight, you could probably stay at 175, fight Joe Smith Jr. if he's still got a belt at that point. If not, then I guess you figure it out, someone else, because they said they're looking to do maybe 2 or 3 times. So there's like May, September, and then December. So who knows? It'll be interesting to find out if he does become a 5-weight champion. I mean, yeah, people can talk about cherry picks here and there, but there's no one else who's at 168 right now who would go up and face a cruiserweight champion. So if it's funny, you could call it a cherry pick, but it's only a cherry pick because it's Canelo. Like, for anyone else, that's their career best win. Like, they retire off of that and tell their grandkids it's the stuff of legend. But for Canelo, oh yeah, but it wasn't Okoli, it wasn't Bradus, it wasn't Gulamarian. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's gonna constantly be his legacy until he retires. Oh, it wasn't this guy, it wasn't that guy he chose, or he waited. And to be honest, like, he's earned the right to kind of do that now. To be fair, just pick and choose, like, man, them like Charlo, Benavidez, Andrade. Less so Andrade. I won't really put him in that, because he's been calling for big fights in general, whether it was Canelo, whether it was Charlo, whether it was Golovkin, even Munguia. He's asked for Munguia as well, and Munguia turned down the mandatory request. So as much as he's fighting, I don't want to call the people trash, but he ain't fighting good competition. But I don't blame him as such. It's not his fault, so I don't put him in that same category. But with everyone else, they're all in this mad holding pattern. So if he goes up to 200 pounds to that limit, that means Benavidez and Charlo have to fight each other, or Andrade and Charlo have to fight each other. It means that Joe Smith Jr. and Bivol and Beterbiev ultimately have to fight each other, because they can't all be in this holding pattern, in this queue, literally trying to wait their turn for the Canelo payday. Like, you got to do something to earn it. If I was it, I would have said that, like, we're going up to cruiserweight. Anyone who wants to fight us in December, fight each other. Whoever wins, I'll take on the winner in September or December. That's what I would literally have just called it in the WBC. I would have been like, Charlo, if you want this work, go fight Benavidez, or go unify with Andrade, and when the two of you unify, then I'll see the winner. Or Golovkin, if you want this work, you've unified with Morata, go unify with Andrade or Charlo. I'll take on the winner of you guys. Like, do something to earn it. Golovkin probably a bit less so, because he's done a lot more in his career, even though his recent run ain't been the greatest, but he's done a lot more. So I'd probably say, yeah, Andre, Charlo, you guys do what you need to do, unify, maybe then undisputed at 160, and I'll meet you guys and get it popping. Same with the Benavidez at 168. I mean, I don't know really who he could now fight, apart from bringing the Charlo up from 160, who keeps running his mouth about fighting him, maybe. But yeah, there's that. The 175s, I'd probably, yeah, just literally, I would have been there. It's like, anybody who wants to fight me has to fight another champion. If you beat that champion, I'll fight you. Simple. Stop all, stop the, because literally he could go off and just fight anyone at this point. He can pick anyone, and as much as people might moan about who he chooses, like, well, boy, these big guys ain't stepping up to the test, so I'm just gonna do what I want to do until they start stepping up, and then we can make these big fights. But yeah, overall, it was a rather eventful day. I'm gonna be back. What day are we now? Well, technically it's Wednesday, so because there's the Friday card, isn't there? Yeah, so I'm gonna be back Friday, and I'm gonna talk about, obviously, the DAZN card that's happening on Friday, and then get ready for the Boxer card and the Top Rank card, Crawford and Spence. I mean, Crawford and Porter, sorry. Yeah, and Crawford Spence is dead. That ain't never happening. But yeah, Crawford Porter, that's definitely going to be a live one. I'm going to be dropping my predictions for all of those probably on the Friday video. So let's see how many of them I get right. But for right now, hardcore casual,